guys, thanks for watching the Trunk Tales. Don't worry, Nona and I will be back very soon for He's Wrong, She's Right. But for now, this is an advanced preview of our new show, The Trunk Tales, with myself and Grimzy News. Check it out, get subscribed, and we will see you on both channels very soon, I hope. And I do want to say thank you guys for supporting those of you that have stayed channel members on He's Wrong, She's Right, even though we haven't uploaded in several months. We do appreciate your support, and we are coming back. We will have a lot of great content for you guys, and it should be coming very soon. So enjoy this episode of the Trunk Tales. And if you're not subscribed, go check it out. And if you're new to the Trunk Tales, or if you're watching the Trunk Tales as it comes out, go get subscribed to our other channel, He's Wrong, She's Right. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week. Welcome, everybody, to the Trunk Tales. I'm your co-host, or one of your hosts, Andrew. My co-host, Grimzy, is here with us as well. And our special guest today, BX on X, also known as Becca. She's here today to help talk and inform us about, and I'm doing terrible with words today. Becca is here to talk about some human trafficking cases, child exploitation, especially within video games and the online environment. And we're happy to have her here. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
So I sent Grimzy over a little one pager. It's something we kind of like to do. However, when I was putting it together, because I use ChatGPT to do some of that, and then I'll go through and tweak it. It really didn't want to produce links to the things that I was asking for in your X account. And obviously, this could be a ChatGPT thing where maybe it's being blocked by X. But you had a lot of really, informative posts over the last several months that I've seen. And I was asking it specifically, can you find stuff about this? Can you find stuff about Roblox? And it was just like, she talks about Roblox. I'm like, helpful. Thank you.
I found that Grok does a pretty good job of stuff on X, but ChatGPT maybe isn't like allowed to crawl X or something. I don't know.
So what I think is happening specifically in this case, because usually it does do pretty good for me, is that some of the last two guests, at least, have a massive social media following, and not even just social media, but a massive kind of following in all. And I think it was just kind of like, why are you asking about this account? That's kind of how it felt like. And I'm not saying that in a negative way about you, but it was kind of like, why do you care? She's just BX on X. You don't need to know about her.
Yeah, we're gonna have to jump ChatGPT. It's all right.
Yep.
And we're gonna have to jump. It'll be all right.
So yeah, I've seen, especially recently, the push to get people to get their kids off of Roblox. Can you kind of start us off, like what was kind of the jumping point for you where it was like Roblox needs to go?
Well, I mean, I guess going back a little bit more, I started to investigate mass shootings a while back, probably about 3.5 years ago. We started to really do some deep dives into like mass shootings to try to figure out, what's causing these kids to snap and go on these shootings and kill kids at school and stuff. And we eventually ran into this concept called accelerationism, which is basically, it's like an ideology. It's a tactic that certain communities use to accelerate societal collapse by, either doing things to enhance the political divide in the U.S., right? Like having a little neo-Nazi kid go shoot up people in the name of white supremacy or whatever the case may be. This concept of accelerationism was being used by all sorts of extremist groups to kind of groom people in these online communities into going and doing horrible things. So I eventually was led to, as crazy as it sounds, a satanic cult called Order of Nine Angles, which is a British-based neo-Nazi satanic cult. And their goal is to groom kids and other people into committing horrible, evil acts because they believe it's going to help like usher in the apocalypse, like crazy stuff, right? So when I started talking about this, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, people were like, "This chick's insane. She's crazy." And I guess I could have just hung it up there and moved on to something else. But I was really like fascinated. No, people need to pay attention. Like this is actually real. I know it sounds crazy, but there are these people who are in all these online spaces where kids, like preteens and stuff and teenagers are there, and they're trying to groom them into going and committing acts of violence. And eventually, we started to find communities that kind of spawned from the same concept, that were trying to groom kids to groom and abuse other kids as part of their plot to accelerate the downfall of society by attacking our children. It's basically a terror attack on our children.
Are they are they using things like, because I know the cartel uses like shit like video games and Discord and WhatsApp. Are these groups kind of using the same sort of thing to get their reach to kids?
Actually, the cartel is a really great example. It's almost exactly the same thing. And, this isn't a new concept, really. I mean, Al Qaeda and ISIS did this as well. So this is online radicalization, basically. The difference between the cartel and maybe this, what I've termed the term I coined is satanic accelerationism. When the government finally started to acknowledge this about 6 months to a year ago, they coined the term nihilistic violent extremist, NVE. Okay, whatever. Right. But for me, they were satanic accelerationists, right? They believed that by spreading all of this evil and by grooming kids using the same strategies that the cartels and ISIS use, that they could corrupt our youth and destroy them and get them to basically destroy our country from within. They're basically making foot soldiers out of kids online, and that's exactly what the cartel and ISIS did.
It sounds to me like so when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and even going farther back than that, the term that was always used was that we're trying to win the hearts and minds of the people that live there. We're not trying to eliminate them. We're not trying to make them a 51st state or territory or whatever. We're trying to win hearts and minds, and it didn't work. But it sounds like, and it seems like, they're using our playbook against us better than we ever did against them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know what? I really don't know what it is with the government naming shit that doesn't pertain to what it actually is to make it sound better. Right? Like,
well, yeah.
Let's call it what it is. Like, I like how you coin it, right? But when you start adding in these big ass words and giving it an acronym, like, no, first of all, nobody knows what the fuck that is, right? Most of the people, and I think this is a big problem with how we're going about it. Like, even in just politics, right? Because in politics, they go after the elder section of people, right? These people are going after the youth, the future of what's to come. And I feel like that might have a big kind of reaction in how it's going to progress more than anything. Because the elders, I mean, they're towards the end of their life. These guys are kind of attacking the youth. Is that right? Is that something that they're doing better? Is that why what they're doing is working?
So going back a little bit, when I first coined this term, satanic accelerationism, there was a lot of pushback because, it's not surprisingly, the Satanists from like the Church of Satan, right, were coming out and blah, blah, blah. We don't agree with all of this and whatever. So there's a political thing that has to do when you mention Satanism in the U.S., people shut their ears. They do not listen. I could talk for hours about, the conspiratorial like stuff behind that, about how that was all set into motion intentionally, but I digress. If you go to the UK or Australia or Canada, where they're dealing with the same group, it's an international threat, terror threat. They have no problem calling it Satanism. So it really seems to be a very uniquely American thing that we want to shy away from all things Satanism, right? But when we found these online groups, that they weren't just like provoking terrorism, terror attacks, and mass shootings, they were also kind of behind the scenes influencing this cyber criminal network that's known as COM, or it's short for the community. And this is a cyber criminal network that's been around for years and years. There's a branch of this that cyber criminals, they can do hacking, Bitcoin mining, they can do like doxing and swatting, and there's the arm that does extortion. So they call it extortion com. And out of this online community that would basically extort kids into doing horrible stuff or sextort them, right? By like getting compromising sexual content and then, basically telling them, if you don't continue to give me the sexual content, we're going to SWAT your house or, we're going to kill your family kind of stuff. And so we found out that there was a new group of this splinter of this community called 764. The 764 network was actually founded by a 15-year-old kid back in 2021. A 15-year-old kid from Texas started this group, and it basically it metastasized into this crazy satanic pedophile network that we see today. And a lot of it, there's a lot of adults in there also that have been getting arrested, but a lot of it is kids abusing kids and being provoked to abuse other kids and being groomed to abuse other kids. And so we found this community that was linked to the Order of Nine Angles cult. And we started focusing all of our efforts there, our investigative efforts there. But now, for the longest time, I was getting inquiries from the UK, from Canada, from Eastern Europe, or Western Europe, rather, to looking to me as a subject matter expert, which was crazy to me. I was like, wow, like there's really not a lot known about these communities. In fact, the stuff that I've published is some of the only stuff out there. And now fast forward to 2025, the State Department, the US government coined the term nihilistic violent extremists. And when I read the State Department memos about these groups, they're basically just parroting off a lot of the same like research that we built early on. So it's kind of cool to see that we put a lot of the balls in motion to get like the attention on this thing. I think that the naming convention is kind of semantic. I know that there's a lot of people who, when they think of nihilists, they think of like the Big Lebowski, right?
Right.
So they get confused. But I think if they were going to go that route, I think misanthropic would have been a better word. They want all humans to die. Their slogan is total human death. They want to usher in an apocalypse. It's very strange. But when you read a lot of the manifestos coming out from recent school shooters, recent mass stabbers all over the world, basically the pattern you're seeing is that they're not like basing this on far left extremism or far right extremism or some of the stuff we've seen in the past. They're basing it on this concept of nihilism and hatred of humanity. And that's something that they're definitely being groomed into believing by these bad actors who are, they're terrorists, essentially. It's very, very complicated. It's very hard to grasp, which I think is why my message was lost on a lot of people early on. And also because I'm just like a random mom. Like I'm not law enforcement. I'm not a journalist. I'm not like a trained speaker. I'm just an idiot online. And so,
amen. Same here.
So when people started listening to me and when like international news outlets started to like want to film with me and treat me like a subject matter expert, when the FBI started reaching out and asking me for help with some of these cases, it was very hard for me to like wrap my head around the fact that I had somehow become a subject matter expert in satanic pedophile networks. I don't ever think I was the right person for it, honestly. But I guess it's kind of what God called me to do or something.
Do you ever feel like people ignore you because there's too much noise? And what I mean by that is, you have the conspiracy theorists that run around, right? And they try and lump a lot of realistically unrelated things together. But there might be a little bit of, oh, this happened. There's a little bit of overlap, but they're not truly related. So now people are like, I don't care about video games. Video games have been bad forever. There's always been chat rooms. Why would I care about this new problem? Do you feel like that noise is what stops people from really caring?
I think they do care now. I think initially it was more of like they didn't believe what we were saying because it sounded so crazy. Right. One of the most vindicating moments of my entire life was when Dan Bongino came out on Twitter and said, hey, we need to inform the public about this thing called 764 and this group of terrorists who are going around and exploiting kids using video game communities. And I was just, and then after that, ABC did a feature that they featured me in, and that's when the FBI came out and announced that they had 250 investigations opened into the network. And that every field office in America had at least one 764 case being worked. So that's when we realized, like, wow, well, a lot of people were like, holy shit, like this chick who we thought was crazy for the longest time, it seems to be correct, And I think that they do care now that people are like, okay, this isn't crazy, it's real. Now they're looking to me and looking to other people and saying, how are these guys targeting kids? And we're telling them they are targeting your kids because your kids are unsupervised on the internet. It doesn't matter how old your kid is. It doesn't matter how good of a home that you have, how stable your family is. This isn't something that's exclusive to bad parents, right? I really have fought hard to get rid of that stigma because this could happen to anyone. Right. You have to really be proactive and talk to your kids. And when they're younger, they just should not be able to download any kind of app where they can interface with the public. I mean, for example, the biggest, most obvious example is Roblox, which is the most popular child's game in the world, right? And that game is based around the concept of your kids run around little fake communities and talk to strangers. There was, for the longest time, there was this idea that like, oh, they're safe because they're in their room, right? But parents were unaware of sextortion, extortion, and grooming and child exploitation that was going on, and all the horrible things that were happening. And now I think that our message to parents is that, like, if your kid is able to chat with a grown-up or anyone that you don't know on the internet, it's no different than going and dropping them off in the busiest part of downtown area and leaving them by themselves. They are in that much danger. So yeah, Roblox became the centerpiece of it because that's just the biggest place they find these kids. But they also find them on X. They find them on Instagram, Snapchat, Discord. So anywhere that your kid can message strangers is a serious risk. And I think also what was hard for people to wrap their heads around is that we're not just talking about like they're getting nudes from your kid and, threatening them, which is horrible. Like this is like the worst thing most people can imagine is that happening to their child. And there's astronomical suicide rates among kids who have been extorted like this. And unfortunately, we've been proxy to some of these suicides and had to see them and talk to the parents. It's tragic. But in addition to that, which has been going on forever, that's not something new. The 764 network is extorting kids. It basically becomes a competition among the 764 members to see who can get the kids to do the most evil thing. So we're seeing them torturing and mutilating animals, pets, arranging the pets' bodies into satanic altars, cutting themselves, cutting the names of their abusers into their bodies and then painting on the walls with blood. They're trying to convince the kids to kill themselves on camera. And, it becomes a contest to see who can make them do the worst stuff. And I think a lot of people, like their brains kind of shut off at this point because they can't imagine something that evil. Right. And that's the kind of stuff that I've been immersed in for the last year and a half. It's been hell.
So it's, for myself at least, I grew up in the days of AOL Instant Messenger and all those little chat rooms and Yahoo Messenger and all that stuff. And my parents, I think, so they weren't as technologically inclined as I was. So I just kind of I had privileges on the computer, admin privileges. I would install whatever I wanted. I remember making a little floppy disk. It was a little cracked disk that you could take to a friend's house and put it in their floppy drive and steal their AOL Instant Messenger password and then log in from your house and pretend to be them. So I've been, technologically inclined and savvy for a long time. And now I work IT and web development and stuff. So I've always been my wife considered it controlling for a long time, especially early on in our relationship. She thought I was trying to control her and control the kids because I had, network limitations on sites and things that they could access. but also including ads. Like I block advertisements from every device within our household.
Yeah.
And
they'll target your kid with grossly inappropriate ads on like YouTube.
Yep.
Like my kid was seeing ads for like for pro-abortion stuff.
Yep.
And
I get really random stuff. So I also work in marketing. So periodically I disable it for myself so I can make sure that on my clients, whatever platform that we're trying to set up, that whatever is working correctly, because in order to use the tools to produce the advertisement, you also have to unblock that platform, at least per device or temporarily, to be able to observe and make sure that it's working correctly. So she finally has come around to it, because I think in her mind, I did sound like, the conspiracy theorist, because she wasn't familiar with it. But other parents have started saying, I don't let my kid do this. I don't let my kid use this. Is there another way that my kid can communicate with yours safely? And that's hard to do. Like I'm setting up a dedicated knockoff Discord kind of thing, because my wife's siblings have both moved to the Netherlands, and we don't want to give them the ability to use like Facebook Messenger or real Discord or anything like that. So I self-host a lot of this stuff. I self-host Minecraft servers that the kids can access, their friends can tunnel into. They have very, very exclusive sets of permission that they can't let somebody else in. Everything has to be approved and go through me. And I think explaining that and saying that out loud would probably inform some of the audience as to why parents don't do it. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. And it's technologically, when we were kids, of course, we were more technologically adept than our parents. But my kid now, she's 8, and she has already surpassed me in her abilities to use technology. Like it's insane to see that these kids these days are being born with the ability to navigate to advanced technology. And so there's definitely an issue with, and it's great for you because you've been this kind of tech person your whole life, but that's not the norm, right? Most parents are not as technologically savvy as their kids, and for that reason, we see an issue with technological illiteracy among parents, leading to these kids being able to kind of bypass parental controls, hide, like they have burner phones and other devices that they're doing this on, they're hiding. And we also see these predators, these child predators, who have become very good at, after they start grooming a child, they are giving them explicit instructions on how to hide it from their parents and how to avoid it. They're teaching them how to bypass parental controls. And so, parental education has always been my number one thing that I want. That's my goal, is to educating parents. Because, without knowing any of this is happening, I mean, the average parent does not stand a chance. I would just say it like that, because I see a lot of people. This is one of the things that get pushed back online. Well, where were the parents? Wasn't it just the parents' fault? Well, no, we still need to arrest the pedophile. So I don't really understand the point of that argument. But also, and some kids don't have good parents. We have to protect those kids too. But also, even the kids that do have good parents, I've talked to many of their parents, and they're devastated. We thought this could never happen to us. The second that you start thinking this could never happen to me, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous and complacent position, right? Every parent has to be vigilant. As much as you think you trust your kid, there are several things that parents need to do. Number one is, if your child's young, you should have complete control over their device at all time. But once your child gets older, to the teenage years, and they know about sex and they know about all of these things, you need to start talking to them about online grooming and extortion, and what to do if they're ever in a position where their nude photos land in the hands of a bad actor. You need to have that kind of trust and communication with your child, that they know that you will always advocate for them. Because the number one thing I see, and I've spoken to dozens of child victims. Part of my biggest role in this whole thing has been finding these child victims online and talking to them and trying to advocate for them and trying to convince them to go to the police or go to their parents. because unless they go to the police, honestly, a lot of these bad guys never get caught until a victim comes forward. We can send the evidence to the FBI, and until there's a victim, they won't do much. But the victims always say the same thing, and they're not afraid of the police. They're afraid of their parents. They're afraid of getting in trouble. And it's really, really, really sad to see. It's very hard to convince a child to go and talk to their parents about something because they're scared they're going to get in trouble.
So like just me personally, this kind of shit is just really difficult to really put my head around, right? And it's not from a squeamish aspect of it, because I do a lot of cartel research. I do a lot of street research. I've seen a lot of things, but hearing shit like this when it comes to kids is particularly hard. So I can understand where some people kind of shut their ears off. You know what I mean? But I think, especially with the whole parents, where were the parents thing? You can kind of correlate it to gang culture, right? You can have a good parent at home that has to work a lot. You know what I mean? They don't have the time because they're trying to provide and they're trying to keep their kid safe as possible. But that kid still has to go out into that world, right? And they can still be influenced by everything. And I've seen, especially now when it comes to gang culture, even kids from great homes with good parents fall into the wrong crowd. And it's got to be even easier for these. I'm going to say bad things on here, for these kind of people that go after kids, because their mind is still growing. Go ahead, Drew.
I was just going to say, very similarly, had a conversation, and it wasn't about this at all, but it rings true in the same way, with John Malecki. If you guys are familiar with him, he used to play for the Steelers, big YouTube channel. But he was talking about community. He's like, guys like us, he was talking about he and I, how we don't go out and drink anymore. We'll go out, we'll spend time with our friends. We might end up at like a brewery or a winery or something, but we don't go to the club. We don't go looking to make new friends actively all the time, because we're no longer searching for community. Whereas you have these kids where when they're already involved in something and they like it or they enjoy it, for example, our youngest plays football, our second youngest is a cheerleader for the team. They found that community. They enjoy playing those things because they made new friends. They have people that they are experiencing similar things with, that they can communicate with. And that, just like when we were growing up, our parents always said, I put you in this or I put you in that to keep you out of trouble. It's the same kind of thing. Fundamentally, it's all the same thing. Everyone's looking for a community. Is that community going to come from video games? Is it going to come from a gang? Is it going to come from something productive?
Right. And this is just, this is the same for adults too. This is just a human psychological need to belong and to have communities. And so what we do find, by and large, in these, communities that exploit kids, is that they are targeting kids that are already feeling like rejects, feeling maybe they're gender confused. That's a big one, a real big one. Maybe they're already kind of into self-harm. So in addition to seeing kids on gaming platforms like Roblox being groomed, we also see there's these communities on X that are centered around self-harm, right? So mostly kids who are cutting themselves. And it's a really sick community that I've lobbied X to get shut down, and they really haven't done much about it, which is unfortunate, because that's directly where these guys go. In fact, I was reading a criminal complaint. I guess I should mention that when we started this a couple years ago, there had only been like one or two vague arrests in this network. And now there's been dozens of arrests, and some of them have been very high profile. I remember Dan Bongino and Cash Patel tweeting out a couple of months ago that they had caught the two leaders of 764. And that both of those people were adults, and they're both awaiting, they're both in the court systems. There's been a lot of arrests, but a couple of them had written manuals on how to train other predators on where to find kids and how to groom them. And the very first step is to go to a self-harm community on X or Instagram and find a kid who's already cutting themselves and emotionally having a hard time. And then that's the easiest kid to groom, right? Same thing in Discord servers when you put them in places that say, oh, you don't know your gender. Oh, you think that you're, whatever. Oh, come into our community and we'll validate you. And your parents are bigots and everybody, no one else understands you except for us. That's another great way for them to kind of selectively apply these like psychological need for community and validation. And so we do see that happening a lot. I even see this happening with adult communities. How many of us have seen these weird parasocial online groups that act like they're best friends with each other when in reality, you don't know who that person really is, right? And I, unfortunately, I see that happening. And still the same thing. A lot of times when you really dig into who the people are who are more likely to fall into those harmful groups, they're neurodivergent. You've got a lot of people who are kind of maybe borderline autistic or maybe just kind of socially maladjusted types, for lack of a better word. Those are the people who are more likely to fall into these harmful communities and be so enamored with the feeling of community that they get themselves into big trouble because they get led around, right, by the nose by a bad actor.
Yeah, it sucks. So I'm just like, a lot of things are going through my head because I think back about how, I was on the internet and the access that I had, and that informs a lot of my decisions on things because I know the tools that are available now make that even easier. Back in the day, at dial-up internet, you're not talking with somebody in, India or something like that. You're talking to somebody probably pretty local to you, which in reality, at that point in time, was very dangerous because now I've befriended somebody who can come to my house. I haven't befriended somebody across the world who's telling me to do something. I've befriended somebody who could drive up. I could make a mistake. They could either find my location or I might be dumb enough to give them my location. They'll pull up in my driveway and abduct me or whatever, rob my parents or whatever, because kids like to brag about things. Oh, I live in this.
Not even just bragging. I mean, no one is really anonymous online.
Right.
Almost everybody can be found. And this is especially true for kids. They tend to have worse like OPSEC, right? They're not doing things to protect their identities. They're not using strong passwords. They're vulnerable to social engineering and to hacking. And so one of the first things they do while they're grooming these kids is they try to either hack them or socially engineer them for their personal information that they can then use to extort them. Because if they don't, because the next step is saying, I have your nude photos and I'm going to send them to all of your family and friends if you don't do what we say and kill your pet on camera. Or they'll say, we know where you live and we're going to SWAT you. We're going to call the cops and we're just going to do SWAT attack after SWAT attack on you. And they do carry those out. They do SWAT these child victims. So the kids who are being victimized by these groups are usually terrified to come forward. That's a big challenge we have because, they're afraid because they're being threatened. It's not just like, man, I don't want to come forward because I might get in trouble. It's also, they told me that if I told anybody, they were going to destroy my lives and leak my nudes. So a lot of my work with kids has been trying to talk reasonably to them as an adult who's not their family member, who they can talk to and who can try to reason with them that this can be fixed. This can all be fixed. Right. It feels like the end of the world to these kids, but it's not. We can help them. And, by coming forward and being really, really brave and coming forward, and going to the police, they could save other kids. And we've been able to get through to a few kids, get them to go to the police. And in some cases, that's led to big high profile arrests. So that's the biggest thing that I can think of, for me is just trying to talk to these kids. I've gotten to the point where I'm like offering to talk to their parents. Like, what if I talk to your parents or write them an email and explain to them how, like, this is such a brave thing for you to do and they shouldn't be mad at you. I'm doing everything I can to convince these kids to come forward. And it's really heartbreaking stuff. But it's just tragic.
I kind of wonder, and actually, I want to make a comment. I made a post about this the other day, and you guys probably didn't see it. But separately, I kind of wonder why, especially because it's not only kids that are affected by a lot of this stuff, the same tactics are used on like our parents and grandparents. My dad emails me and forwards me stuff all the time. he'll get a lot of times something legitimate, but it'll be from a third party, like a bill from a hospital visit or something. He's like, it says I need to click this link. Is it safe? And he sends it to me before he does it. He only does that because he has the experience of my grandpa falling for scams. And he knows that I can tell him whether it's safe or not. A lot of people don't have that in their life. I kind of wonder why we don't have like a DARE kind of program where somebody, an authority figure, doesn't necessarily even have to be the police, just somebody comes in and explains to whatever age range of kids, rather than don't do drugs. Hey, here's how to be safe when your parents give you access to these kind of things. Here's what to look out for.
Yeah. And like 2 years ago, that was one of the main things that I was saying. Why isn't the American government talking about this? Why aren't they putting people in schools to talk about this? Why aren't there more awareness? Public education programs, in my opinion, is the best way to prevent kids from becoming victims, because the parents, the kid is the first barrier to entry. Because if the kid knows better, the kid doesn't get exploited, right? Second barrier to entry is the parents, because kids do dumb stuff all the time. Even the smartest kid in the world does dumb stuff, right? And so those two, getting kids and parents the information they need is super important. Well, what we saw over the past 6 months or so was the new FBI under Dan and Cash really started to make this like their number one priority. Like, we are catching these bad guys, and we are also starting public awareness campaigns and going and educating schools and educating mental health counselors and educating parents. And so we have seen a really big push for like more public awareness, which has been one of the best things I think that I've seen so far. Is like, I really do feel like they're at least trying to raise public awareness about the stuff now, external to us or to me, because I was the only one kind of talking about it for a while. It was very isolating time for me.
Yeah. So the post that I made, I specifically, and it had just occurred to me when I was going over some stuff, and I was like, why haven't I seen any of these, like the moms against whatever? And my post specifically said, why haven't we seen any of these groups, moms against everything people hate or everything people love, talking about what's going on with this stuff? It feels like either those groups no longer exist or they don't care.
So, and I'm going to be like really frank about this. From the beginning, when we started to do this research into these like harmful online groups, and this is way beyond what I've discussed with you guys. We've been involved in some very strange investigations into crazy, creepy websites that are objectively really awful and evil, right? And early on, I remember saying, this research is going to be used to push censorship, right? And then we started to learn about the UK's online safety bill, which actually was using one of the websites that we were talking about for the longest time. That was like their golden horse. That was what they were using. See this website? This is why we need to enact, digital ID requirements and mass surveillance. And, like the FBI is trying to get backdoors into Telegram. And they do this all under the veil of child safety. But I don't believe they really actually care about the kids. I really do think that this is just a push for them to try to erode our digital privacy rights. And so I think that from a lot of the government standpoint, they would much rather put these new laws into place and force tech companies to enact digital IDs and force us to give up some of those rights, as opposed to doing some of the more grassroots actions that could probably have an even greater effect. And so might just be me being a little bit conspiratorial, but I mean, I don't think there's anyone who's more well versed to speak on this than me. I've said for the longest time they're going to use this stuff to push through digital privacy acts, and I think that's very unfortunate, because I don't think that they're actually going to solve the problem, and I don't think that they actually care about kids. I think the goal is really to just erode online anonymity, which I have a problem with personally. So that could be part of the reason that they've been focusing more on legislating as opposed to grassroots action, which is something I would really, really like to push back against.
I completely agree with you on, because that's what the government does, right? The government will always, it's a marketing thing. At the end of the day, it's about how you sell what you're trying to do either as a business or as a government entity. If I can win people over by saying that this piece of legislation will save children, the parents who don't care about anything else, they don't care about the meat and potatoes in the bill, they're like, yeah, save the children. Save the children. That's what I want. I want you to save the children.
A tactic as old as time. Yep. They've always done this.
Yep.
So it's nothing new. When it was really sad because I've worked with the BBC at quite a few times. They put out some really remarkable pieces for us on 764 and some of these other harmful groups. But deep down, when I go back and look at those old interviews, I'm like, damn, like, you know that that the government's watching this and trying to use this to strengthen their laws. And so I made it a point to be really vocal and speaking out against that, because I don't want that to be what my research led to. At least, I mean, I don't think that it's my fault. They would have found a way anyways, right? Mm-hmm. But as the source of a lot of that research, I feel like it's very important for me to voice my opinion that I don't think that is the appropriate route to take to stop these things.
Has there been an instance where something that you or somebody that you worked with, where that work that you guys have put in has led to something negative coming of it? Either perfect example, the YouTuber that was recently banned from Roblox for finding these predators, mm-hmm. he was branded as like a digital vigilante or whatever, mm-hmm. and kicked off the platform because he reported all of these different bad actors who were exploiting children. And he's the one, he sent the cease and desist. I think they attacked his YouTube channel, stuff like that. Has something like that happened to the people that you work with?
Well, I was involved with that. So you're talking about Schlep. I started working with Schlep a few months ago, probably back in like June, I guess, because we finally started to see so many of these 764 members in Roblox that I was like, let's connect with these Roblox catchers and see if we can collaborate. And sure enough, we started collaborating with them. They were like, yeah, like we've been seeing this group too. So I was able to help them learn about 764 and they were able to help me learn about Roblox. It's very, very mutually beneficial. So while all of this was happening, we found this, I won't go into too much detail, but there was a cult that was created by the 764 network where they were basically getting kids from a certain Roblox community and convincing them that there was this God that was going to help them respawn. And it sounds crazy, but kids are, kids are very vulnerable to this stuff. And so we really made it a mission to push this out into the mainstream, and all these YouTubers started making videos about it. And that's when Schlep got banned. So I think that Roblox was like, ooh, yeah, this is problematic. They're exposing this 764 network activity, because everyone knows that pedophiles exist, right? But when you start talking about 764, let me preface this by saying 764 is designated by the DOJ as a tier 1 terror threat. So they're basically up there with ISIS, right, in terms of how serious the government treats them. So a company like Roblox is going to be a little bit more concerned about bad press around that than they are about normal predators. And so I'm not surprised that they took action against Schlep when they did. But and he was going through a really hard time, poor guy, because he's such a genuine person. And he does more than just make content. I mean, we were behind the scenes doing all kinds of legwork trying to identify some of these 764 members so we could tip them off to the FBI and get these pedophiles arrested. So he's not just a pedophile catcher. He was doing real work, and I can attest to that personally. And after he got banned, I remember telling him, hey, man, keep your head up because everything happens for a reason. And this was right before everything exploded. I was like, everything happens for a reason, dude. I'm telling you, this is going to go. He's like, I think this is about to go really viral. And I said, I think so too. And I think that it's going to be a good thing for you and for raising awareness. And also, fuck Roblox. Like their stock tumbled, right? After all of this. And it became like there was almost every major news outlet had a story about it. And I was like, I know it sucks that he was banned, but also this is a positive thing. Like you're making more of a change now than you ever did before. So I hope he does get his account back, because that was absolute horseshit. But there's definitely he definitely took one for the team. You know what I mean? So that's what happened with the Roblox stuff. It's been very, very interesting and also kind of entertaining to watch them scramble and make PR disaster after PR disaster. Because it's just well past time that people start to take notice of Roblox and take their kids off of them. Your kid should not be on Roblox. I get a lot of people who are like, well, just put parental controls. Your kid should not be on Roblox at all. If you're watching this right now, go to your child's device, check for Roblox. And if they have it, you need to go talk to your child about why you're deleting it and they're no longer allowed to play it. I'm taking a zero tolerance on this one. There's no need for your kid to play Roblox. All they do is walk around and talk to strangers. And not just pedophiles, but we found with Schlepp, the first thing that I ever contacted him about was that he was reporting on a community on Roblox that was set up to look like a church. But when you go into the church, it's a bunch of terrorists plotting mass shootings and out in the open. And one of those guys was arrested. He was in Round Rock, Texas, right near Austin. And he was in one of these communities planning a mass shooting. They're right next door to you. So, your kids have no business on Roblox. It's objectively bad for them. Get them off.
And so coming from us, all of our devices, the kids have to have parental consent. So like, it doesn't matter what the app is. If it's on an iPad or the older kids, if it's on their phones, my wife or I, depending on the device, get a notification that says, do you approve this download? It doesn't matter what it is. We have to approve it. They have all the age restrictions and everything like that through all the different platforms. Obviously, that doesn't prevent them from having something that already existed. If you're a parent that goes and, sets up parental controls after the fact, you still have to go and delete it, like you said. But we also have network controls. Like even if their friends come here and have it on their device can't connect to that service at our house. If they're connected to our network.
Nice. That's pretty nifty. Yeah. Have you ever considered putting some informational tweets out or something else kind of explaining to parents how to do that? Because I think that's something that would be really, really beneficial personally.
So I need a filter, and I think you two would be great for this. So what I'm frequently told is it's not what I say, it's how I say it. So
oh yeah, I know that well to be true. I've said, like I said, I was never the right person for any of this stuff because I just like to shit post. And
like Grimzy.
I'm a terrible person to bring that to, bro. Because I don't give a fuck what I say, bro. If you looking for a filter, yeah, but if you looking for a filter, I'm not that guy, bro.
So I guess
the problem is I don't care about the cancel culture. I don't care about getting canceled. I'm gonna say what I want to say. So filters aren't really me, but let's listen to it. I'm gonna try to help you.
So I shouldn't call it a filter because I don't mean like taking what I'm saying and making it more palatable. I'm more saying take the nonsense that comes out of my mouth and turn it into mom speak and turn it.
Oh, I could do that.
Speak. Yeah, like
I'm a mom.
Make it palatable to your audience.
True.
Yeah, for sure I could.
You know what the fuck I do, bro? Send me the information, and I'm gonna dumb it down and get it out to people how we can get it out. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like that's the big divide that comes from all of this, right? And that's kind of how I got the whole start on politics. I was able to take politics that are confusing as shit that took me forever to understand, and then I'm able to bring it to people who don't really understand it. And this right here, I would say, is even more important than pushing politics. So if you have like a step-by-step or, tips and tricks, you just like you send me everything else. You send me this shit and I'll push this. I will push this 100 times before I push politics.
So I actually do have a Substack article that I will send you. It's free, and it's a parent's guide to figuring out if you're number one, warning signs that your kid is being exploited online. warning signs, things to look out for. And then it goes into ways to talk to your kids about this kind of stuff and to prevent it from the parents. Not as much of a technical standpoint, but there's some technical stuff. I would love to send that to you and let you look at it and dumb it down for parents. Like, hey, if your kid's talking to people, if they're acting like this, if they're doing these things, you need to look out because they could be being exploited. I think that that's something that would be really, really helpful.
And I would love to take it. I've been really quiet in this episode, but I feel like it's just, to me, a lot of this is new information, right? Mm-hmm. And the more I hear it, the more it pisses me off. So and the more and more I get pissed off, the more and more I try to figure ways on how to disrupt networks like this and educate people so they don't get it. So my brain is kind of, it's just turning right now. Because, I've kind of been shying away, getting a little bit away from politics and talking about other shit. And shit like this, I feel like, and I know people love I know y'all love the politics shit that I do. Like, I get it. But some shit is more important than politics. So I would definitely love to get the Substack. I would love to try and educate people in take your information that you've put all this research and heart into and finally get it out to people so that they can understand it. Me personally, I don't have kids, right? So like Roblox, I don't even know what the fuck is. I don't know what's going on with Roblox. But most of the people that watch me have kids. Most of my demographic is not younger people. It's kind of in the middle there. And I feel like this is definitely very important to get this information out there in a way that everybody can understand. Because like I told you in the beginning of the episode, the government likes to make things very complicated in how they explain shit so that lazy people don't have to look into it. Yep. And I think it's done on purpose, right? When the more you complicate shit, the more people don't want to look into it anymore. So that's definitely something that I've kind of taken on as a shtick. So I definitely want to pursue this a little bit more and kind of get more information on it, because this shit right here, there's not much out there that really fucks up my head and makes it to where I'm not present, when I'm not present in this kind of setting. And this kind of shit does. So I definitely want to get to that.
I even get it. I've been, like I tell people all the time, dude, I'm like, for the longest time, I just went so hard. We were just talking about this before the show, where you were saying like, oh, well, I saw some people saying like accusing you of like, oh, well, you're just a grifter, just doing all this for clicks. And I was saying, man, if I were out for clicks, I sure as would not have been screaming off the rooftops about this to nobody for 2 years, man. Like, I've been shadow banned, suppressed, attacked, because when you attack these kind of evil groups, man, they will stop at nothing to stop you and shut you down. And I've dealt with personal attacks and smears and fake rumors. I have fake nudes, all kinds of shit that these guys have made up to turn people against me. And I've honestly been, through a lot of shit in that regard too. But also at the same time, while I'm doing all this work, I have people, friends and stuff in the background who are like, hey, do you ever like have like issues from this? Or do you ever feel like you're, you need to talk to somebody? And I'm like, I'm too busy right now. I'm too busy working. I'm too busy researching. I'm too busy getting these kids and getting these people arrested to really think about it. But then during more quiet times, I do find myself sitting with all of the things I've seen and all of the things I've witnessed and realizing that, man, this shit is a slow burn. And if you're not watching out for your mental health, it will really, really fuck you up.
People will find any and every way to attack you when they disagree with you. For example, a video of ours that went up, I don't know, like a year ago, continues to this day to get comments. I mean, there was also one. So I looked into why Sean Ryan was arrested in Florida back in like 2012. And all I did, we'd never put a video out about it. I put out a short with the mugshot and with the arrest information. And I said, if anybody was part of this or knows what happened, reach out to us. We'd like to know. We're just looking into it. That video has thousands of comments of people just trying to drag us for all I did was say we're looking into it. Not that he was a bad guy. I was just curious. Was it a DUI? Was it something stupid? Was it something part of the CIA? I'm just curious. It came across my desk and I was looking into it, doing due diligence. If it's nothing, we're not going to talk about it. I just want to know.
All I'll say is that a lot of stuff is manufactured these days. And so I've experienced a lot of manufactured, what I would call manufactured attacks. So before I was looking into this, when I got into the mass shooting stuff, before I got into the child exploitation stuff, what I was really finding a lot of was political influence operations, political operatives, think tanks, and people who were trying to infiltrate maybe right-wing communities to try to make them look bad or initiate smear campaigns against people. And there was a time, I don't want to talk too much about it because honestly, this is the thing that'll get me in the most trouble. But, I looked into one of those incidences and I actually pulled back the curtain a little too far. And I was like, oh shit, these people were like, you're in trouble. It was like kind of scary. I was like, okay, there's like a whole layer behind the curtain of people who are manufacturing narratives and astroturfing stuff. And I'm not saying that's what happened with your case, but I've seen it so much that it's almost really, it jumps off the page at me now when I'm looking at something on Twitter. I'm like, this isn't organic. This is something that's manufactured. And when you kind of understand how that kind of stuff operates behind the scenes, it's spooky. Yep. It's creepy. You start to get creeped out. And I think that, I poked a lot of bears, not just pedophiles, but I poked a lot of other bears too. I might have gotten too close to some of those things at some point, and before you know it, there's like this rumor going around about me or, whatever. Even some of the people who aren't necessarily political operatives, but, another layer of this that I haven't really talked about much, but this Order of Nine Angles cult, the people who are associated with this group some of them are terrorists, like serious ones. Yeah. And some of them are connected to foreign terror organizations. And, I was very careless with that at the beginning. I remember like a year ago, I found one of these guys in the right-wing gun space. And I tried to go to people privately and say, hey, this guy is like bad. Like this guy is really bad, right? But of course, all these people have this, no, that's my online friend. And I would die for this man who I've never met. And I'm like, dude, this guy's a terrorist, bro. Right. And eventually I got a lot of attacks, and he started a lot of rumors about me, and it got real ugly for a while until people started to realize, no, she's right. This guy's really, really bad. And so eventually they realized I was right and it worked out, but I still have like several people who really hate me from that time because they felt like I was attacking an entire group when I was just trying to attack this one person. But yeah, no, some of these guys who are connected to this group are very, very serious. And it's very important to listen when someone's trying to tell you about a bad actor in your community. Even if you don't necessarily believe them right offhand, at least keep it in the back of your mind that like you don't really know any of these people who were your mutuals on Twitter. You don't know them, right? And this guy should have been more obvious, I think, to people. But yeah, now things got really hot with that. I can't really talk too much about it. But they've been trying to kill me for a while. So
I might know who you're talking about, or another very, very similar person. There was the what's his name? Draven or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about? He said that he was a U.S. Army veteran or something like that, and it ended up that he had like failed basic or something stupid like that, and he was pushing Russian propaganda, as a U.S. Army veteran living in Texas.
Yeah, I think people are starting to wake up to that now that they're seeing these accounts that are like AI slop, like from India and stuff, and it's becoming, but that's the more obvious examples, but there are some that aren't that obvious. There are definitely foreign plans all over the place. You got to be careful.
So going back real quick to talk about the whole thing with the Sean Ryan clip. Some guy got so mad about it that he went through like all the links in our video descriptions and stuff like that to figure out what we were, what we do, where we work, things of that nature. And he went and reached out to my wife's boss with manufactured screenshots of comments, things that never happened, and made this whole thing look like we had some back and forth with him where like we're terrorists and Nazis and all this other nonsense. And he emailed her, the first mistake that he made, he emailed my wife's boss with his real email address, and her boss forwarded the email. I took the email address out of it, and now the headers checked it wasn't proxied or anything like that. But I tracked this guy down. It did not take me very long. And I produced all of the counter evidence to show my wife's boss to be like, this never happened, first of all. This guy is mad about
that goes past the normal troll online to possibly someone who's paid. I'm just gonna put that out there. That's, to me, that smells like a
There's like a 20-year-old kid loves like dirt bikes. His handle is something to do with like green dirt bikes or something like that. And it was his social media presence was very cultish, and basically packaging all this up. And I gave it to my wife to send to her boss. She looked at this. She's like, okay, just please remove whatever connection people are able to make, because I don't want to have to deal with this again in the future.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that almost everybody can be found with enough research and enough effort and enough time. I've been, since I started this, like I said, that guy that I did call out in the right-wing gun space, they have tried to solicit people to kill me. So that's all very serious. Obviously, can't talk too much about it for reasons. But in addition to that, some of these 764 members are very dangerous in that they have targeted me as basically their number one enemy. And so, I get death threats, rape threats, threats that they're going to come kidnap and kill my kid. They're going to torture and kill my whole family. Swatting attempts, basically nonstop swatting attempts. I'd always say, like, it's only a matter of time before, like, luckily they haven't found my real address yet, but I've still had to deal with police a lot, and because of other people live in those places, and things have been really, really difficult for me personally. And then, like you said, then you also get the people who, maybe something I said got just misinterpreted. A lot of times there's misunderstandings online, or I rub someone the wrong way, because I can do that. Okay. You don't really have to have a reason not to like me. Okay. I am a very opinionated person, and I say things that I believe, and I say things that I have evidence about, and I stand behind those things. And so, a lot of the stuff that these guys have produced, fake rumors, and like there is this rumor that terrorist started, that I had gotten kicked out of the shooting sports for like trying to like sleep around with a bunch of guys, like crazy stuff that no one would believe except for the people who are just really trying to find a reason to hate me. But yeah, no, I've been personally attacked so much. And in addition to all the threats and harassment I get from these criminal pedophiles, it all becomes a lot. It makes me, like, lately I've really started to wonder if it's maybe if I should retire soon and kind of just pass the torch to someone else. I know we've made a lot of progress. The FBI is actively working on this. The mainstream media has been talking about it. The awareness has been raised, and I think I've made a huge difference. And sometimes I start to wonder if maybe it's time for me to, take a step back for my own personal safety and mental health.
I think it's unfortunate that the danger has become so real that you would even have to consider that.
Very, very real.
Well, here's the thing too, is, we talked a little bit about, how anybody can be found. What people don't understand, and what I didn't understand until I got into, the crowds that I'm into now on X, is that not only can anybody be found, but it's very fucking easy.
Yeah.
It is extreme. Like, you know, I have some guys that I consider, you know, my guys on X that specialize in certain things, and them putting me on game to how easy it is to find somebody's front door with minimal, and I'm talking minimal information.
Yep.
It's that's another thing I don't think people realize, that your digital footprint online is very easily manipulated.
Yep.
And even though it is used by the bad guys, it can be very well used for the good guys as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, with the 764 network, what we're finding it in, like for average user on X, the older you are, the easier it is to find you, period, no matter what you do. But some of these 764 members who are younger and very, very technological savvy, man, we have a really hard time finding them. Some of them are easy. Sometimes they slip up. If you monitor these bad guys long enough, they screw up and share their Snapchat location with the victim on accident. We actually caught a guy that way and got him arrested, which was actually kind of humorous when you look back and I found the guy who's been extorting me, and it's like a little Snapchat avatar with like headphones jamming right on his Google address, right? Yep. But that's rare. For the most part, a lot of these guys, and I guess I should have said this earlier, but you know, the 764 network, as well as the general satanic accelerationist landscape, is an international threat. So a lot of these bad actors live in other countries. It's a lot harder to find and prosecute somebody when they live in Serbia or Russia or Brazil. Well, Brazil's actually come a long way, so I'll take that back, and I'll give a different example of like, you know, anywhere in Eastern Europe is going to be really hard. We found people here who live in Iran, you know, Syria. How are you going to catch these guys? We have one of the most prolific 764 members of all time who lives in Libya. These are the people who end up being way more untouchable. And that's why the 764 threat is a lot more scary and dangerous, because some of the people who targeted me with harassments and threats, especially recently, we know they don't live in the country. But these people would stop at nothing to kill me and ruin my life. And I think that lately it's become more and more apparent that the longer I stay here, the less safe I am. And yeah, it's gotten really out of hand lately. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's been really a nightmare. Like, in a lot of ways, I'm just ready to try to.
Okay, I think, and it's hard to hear that you suffer so much from it, right? Because, and it's usually the people doing the most good in this world that end up taking the brunt of shit, and it never falls on somebody who wants it. So it's extremely tough, and I feel like a lot of the problem comes from like what happened with the catcher on Roblox. What's that dude's name? Schlep, right? So a lot of it comes from this like anti-vigilante type of culture, right? Where we're looking at guys who are doing good in the world, and because it's not by the standard of, you know, what's the right way of going about something, they're looked at in a negative light. And the problem is, when you can't get things done doing it the right way, sometimes the wrong way cancels that out. As far as it being hard to catch some of these people, you know, it's, again, it falls into, most of the time it has to be done by the law, right?
Yeah, true. So, but you know, the law listen to us. You know, one thing that's kind of crazy, I haven't really talked much about, so I haven't really done a lot of podcasts lately, but like after the FBI opened all these, you know, they announced they had 250 open investigations into these people. It was, I found out the hard way. Like, I had filled out a cyber tip on something threats I was getting. Somebody was making very specific actionable threats to me. They had an address they thought was mine, but actually belonged to someone else. And, you know, they were threatening to go in and shoot up that address. So I had to file an FBI cyber tip. Well, when I did that, and I put my number in there, all of a sudden I started getting calls from field offices all over the country. And just in the past like 3 weeks, I probably talked to 7 different FBI field offices because now they have my freaking phone number. Yeah. And, they're calling me and trying to get my help. Like, what information do you have on this guy, that guy? And I'm like, holy, this is like way too much. Like I had to go talk to the FBI here where I live and say, hey, this is too much. Like and then they told me, well, the thing is that you've been filing cyber tips on these guys for a year. And at the beginning, you were one of the only ones. And now, unfortunately, you're going to have to testify in some of these federal cases. And then again, I was like, fuck, I'm like so over my head. Like it just became way more real in the last few weeks of understanding that not only is this not over for me, but like it's about to get harder in a different way, Yep. It's just been weird. I'm just a mom. I like to think I'm just a normal person. I don't really feel normal anymore, like in my real life. I've dealt with a lot of personal consequences, social consequences with my family. So yeah, I've definitely sacrificed a lot to be here. So it kind of irritates me when people will say like, oh, you're doing this for clicks or you're a grifter or something. And like, man, dude, I've torpedoed my fucking life over this. Yeah. So I don't know why I did it. I guess just a personal mission because I saw, like Grimzy said, I just saw some shit that really made me mad. And I guess no good deed goes unpunished, right?
Yep, that's how I feel with a lot of things. I do want to say though, kind of a little snippet for any parents or anybody watching this. 3 actionable things that you can do like right now that are pretty simple and, to use some military terminology, they're user level. Most carriers, so like your cell phone provider, carrier, whatever, has a setting or have a setting. And if they don't, you can probably reach out to them and figure it out. To lock the people that can contact your children via call or voice and text to ones that are in their contacts and that are synced to an account. For example,
and that's actually the default. If you have an Apple account for your kid, you set it up for your kid. That's actually a default setting.
So I do a carrier level, and I know you can do that as well. So I have all Pixel devices for myself and the kids. My wife's the only Apple user in the house. But it not only does it protect them from predators, it also protects them from getting weird spammy calls and texts. They might click on a link or answer the call and give up information about their parents that they shouldn't be. The next one would be to take the device information, everything from, your ISP's provided device. If you have third party, networking equipment, routers, whatever, and all of your devices like your TVs and your phones, your tablets, and your computers, and go to your favorite chatbot and say, how with these things do I prevent my kids from accessing these services that I specifically do not want them to access? And it will give you a rough idea. It might not always be right out of the gate. You can ask additional questions and follow up things and things like that, but you're not going to do anything that's going to destroy or potentially brick a device. So that's the second actionable item. The third is go to Google Maps and all the other map services. They all have the ability for you to request to have your home blurred from Street View, and it is permanent. It is never reversible. Nobody else.
You can also have images of your home removed from Zillow.
Yep.
Because another thing is, Zillow has pictures of the inside of your home they can use to say, oh, look at the carpet, look at the wall, look at the light. Yeah, this person lives at that address. So definitely do that too. That's a big one.
Yep. And like I said, those are 3 things that you can do right now without anybody else's help. And you can take what I said, you can Google what I said, you'll find the links. I'll try and provide the links for some of these things, like specifically the form to request remove. And you can give it any reason. It doesn't have to be a legal reason. You can just say, I do not want people to be able to see my home on Street View, and they will blur your house. And like I said, it's permanent too. The only downfall is that anybody can do it to anybody's house. They don't really look into it. So you could do it to your neighbors if you wanted to. They can't stop you, but I don't see that being a detriment. if you're describing, or if you're telling somebody, hey, I'm having a birthday party, come to my house and give them the address. The address is probably on your mailbox or somewhere on your house. They're going to be able to find you. They don't need to see what it looks like to do that. But Grimzy, any other questions?
How can not just us, but how can people help?
I mean, definitely share the stuff that we're talking about around with parents. Share the podcast with parents. Say, hey, you need to watch this right now, because I think one of the coolest things so far. I always say, like, man, I wish that the people I've helped were as loud as the people who hate me, but that's just not the way the internet works, right? But I do get a lot of people who privately message me and say, I watched your videos on this. I watched your podcast on this. And I was shocked. I had no idea that my kid was talking to these people on Roblox. And sure enough, they were in a Discord server. And, that could just, parents watching this could save child's lives. This could save a kid's life to actually share this podcast. I also have, I mentioned my Substack article, but I'll send that to you, Grimzy. You can look at that. But I also have, a 5-part video series about basically just how I got into this. How I sussed out all of these satanic accelerationist communities, how they're using it to groom and extort kids. And that's available on Rumble. YouTube removed it, but it's there on Rumble. BX on Rumble. It's also my pinned tweet thread at BX_on_X. So people can watch those videos to get a deeper understanding. But, even just at a superficial level, talking to people, and saying, hey, did you know about all this stuff going on in Roblox? I think that what we've said here today is probably horrifying enough to convince most parents that they should be a lot more careful about what their kids are doing online. And that's always been the biggest thing for me, is raising awareness to parents and trying to get people to spread the word. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just educating people.
To add to that, are there any nonprofits or otherwise organizations that you might recommend that people either donate their time to or reach out to if they have additional questions, where, any of us individually might not have all of the information, but there might be a resource or a location where people can find at least a launch pad, right?
I had originally wanted to set up a nonprofit because there really isn't one that's focused around this. But I just haven't really had the time or the resources to do it. If you want to donate money, if you're looking to donate, I'd say that there's 2 orgs that do the most. The first is obviously National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They also have a lot of resources available for parents about online dangers. There's another one called SOSA, SOSA. I know that this is Survivors of Online Sexual Abuse. They do a lot of work with victims and trying to rehabilitate victims, because one thing that is still a huge gap in America, especially, is that after the feds go and interview a child victim and get their devices and find this stuff and they go arrest the predator, and everyone's happy, hooray, we won. But really, there's nothing in place for the kid who is the victim. They remain there in that place, and unless the parents have the resources to get them mental help and help rehabilitate them, they're very likely to continue to fall victim to these same communities, because kids are very kids need that validation. They get addicted to these online groups. And even though they're being abused, unfortunately, I've had to see victims get re-victimized over and over because they intentionally put themselves back in those communities. And so one thing that we really need is resources to kind of help rehabilitate kids who've been in these communities. They need deprogrammed. It's like they're brainwashed into a cult. I mean, it is a cult. So, they need to be deprogrammed and they need to be rehabilitated. SOSA does a lot of good for that. So if you're looking for another place to donate money, I would say SOSA is a good example.
Awesome. I appreciate those tips. It's hard to find legitimate nonprofits or resources of any kind these days that aren't somebody that's just there to take money to build a brand or do something else completely outside of the scope of what their stated mission is.
Right. Yeah. Those two, NCMEC, and, the majority of these cases that have gotten prosecuted and resulted in arrests have come from NCMEC tips. So I guess one other big thing that I should point out is National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, that's ncmec.org. You can go there and file a tip if you ever see something, or you find a victim of abuse, or you find one of these communities. You can go file an anonymous tip on there, and they will act on it. And a lot of people's online tips, just well-meaning people who've made tips in NCMEC, have resulted in some of these guys getting arrested. So you don't even need to immerse yourself in this dangerous, hellish landscape like I have to make a difference. If you see something, make a report to NCMEC or to the FBI cyber tip line.
And we'll provide links to that and anything else that you provide us in the video description and everywhere else that we share out the video.
I just want to say, for the people who were able to watch this all the way through, as much as this scares you, it should piss you off. It should make you want to say something to people. It should make you want to push what's going on here. And even though, you said you don't have to get in the mix. But here's the thing. You got people like BX who has now taken the brunt of most of it. And if you have the resources or you have the balls to get involved, if she won't ask you to, I will. This shit right here should piss you off. This shit right here should get you to a point where if you can't do anything physically, at least spread the word. At least let people know what's going on here. Because at the end of the day, these not only is it affect real people's lives, but this affects kids. And now these kids have to grow up the rest of their life struggling through this. If you are going to do nothing else, at least spread the word on it. It shouldn't get to the point where we have somebody who at this point is putting their life on the line for this cause. And it shouldn't get to the point where we're here and she's grifting, she's doing this. My only thing I can tell y'all is either get involved or shut the fuck up.
Couldn't say it any better.
This should piss you off more than anything.
Yep.
Say something, be a decent fucking human being, and make a difference. Because these kids deserve it. These kids deserve to be helped. And none of these kids deserve to have what's happening to them.
Absolutely.
That's all I got.
And, these kids too, like you said, once they're a victim for life. And a good percentage of these kids won't ever make it to adulthood, because the suicide rate among these kids is really, really, really high. So, that's the goal, right? That's the goal of these communities who are trying, like I said at the beginning, it's a terror attack on our kids. This is an attack on our country via our kids. Their goal is to try to disrupt our society by traumatizing our kids and turning them into abusers and turning them into little terrorists and, getting them to kill themselves. It sounds too crazy to be true, but at this point, I don't think anybody will deny it as being real anymore, because thankfully it's become an international news story now. But, it is real, as crazy as it sounds. Our kids are being used as a vector to attack our country. And this is the new face of terrorism in the West. This is the new ISIS. This is what's happening now. We've got the cartel also, and then we've got this, right? So there's a lot of things that, you've seen a lot of Dan Bongino and Kash Patel talking about the things that I talked about today recently. They also take it just as seriously. They consider this group to be a tier 1 terror threat. So really keep that in mind when you're thinking about how serious this is. It's not just a group of pedophiles. This is even worse. If there's something worse than pedophiles, which sounds crazy, but that's what this is.
Fully agree.
Absolutely, man. BX, thank you for coming on and letting everybody know what's going on. I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't know what's going on, me included. So this is gonna help a lot of people. Yeah. So as always, man, love, peace, and chicken grease. And this was the Trunk Tales. We'll holla at y'all.
Thank you guys for watching.
Trunk Tales! Trunk Tales! Trunk Tales! Grimzy, Bacon Father! Trunk Tales! Trunk Tales! Trunk Tales! Grimzy, Bacon Father! Sit up front, sit and talk. We ain't here to ball and mark. The front seat is where great minds meet, while the big picture comes into focus. Come and ride, take pride. You are listening to Trunk Tales. Talk from Main Street. I'm a matter of all that matters. Educated on the beat of where DC, Wall Street meet. Lessons learned from the school of hard knocks. Knocking on your door. Goofy's a bore. To watch a thrill to experience. Imagine the feats we achieve through perseverance. This is Trunk Tales, a big pop to the top. Cause the narrative machine just drop, pop that, pop top hat. I can't play a quarter. Extra life, no life left in you to fight, but still those Trunk Tales remain to show you to move, to get you out of the backseat. I know you're ready. Make your own Trunk Tales.